So after a short 1 week break of no JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, we return, and this week's episode was a fascinating one. Not only do we get to see once again a stand that just seems so ridiculously dangerous that you think, how are they going to overcome this situation? We also start learning a lot about stands and how they came to be, which is something I wasn't really thinking about, anticipating, but am quite glad to see that we're going to explore at least a little more of how these arrows work. This is something I wasn't anticipating, especially in this part, as it really seemed like it was just bound and determined to be focused on the boss. But I've seen so many people just within past parts say like there's not enough explanation on just like stands and how they work, and that's something that never bothered me personally, but I'm glad they're at least exploring it here so those people can quiet down. Learning that essentially there was like this meteorite basically kind of carried this virus, and as we can see with stand users that not everyone pretty much is worthy enough to be a stand user, this kind of explains everything that these arrows are essentially made of the same material as that meteorite that was a virus. A virus that kills most people, but some people, for one reason or another, are immune to it, and in doing so are kind of granted these very supernatural powers. Obviously, if we have an overly technical explanation on how these floating spirits can come out of you, that would be ridiculous and silly. However, at least exploring the idea of how those arrows were kind of created, how they were meant to be, it's really interesting, and I think knowing that there is a hidden secret with them that only one of our characters is going to be able to learn, because it's apparently just so powerful that if anyone else knew that, probably the fate of the world would be pretty much screwed, because you wouldn't want to trust the wrong person with obviously some sort of ridiculous powerful secret. If I had to guess, it will probably be Giorno who pretty much is the one who gets this information, and whatever that may be, it's going to be interesting to see. But I like how just in the middle of this life or death situation, we just lost one of our best characters. We at least know the face of the boss here, and then out of nowhere, a computer starts talking to you. And in any other situation, you'd want to shut that computer down, blast it with your gun, but I think after everything that's happened, I can understand why they would at least listen in for a quick moment, and when you hear a man pretty much expose the boss's secrets, there's no reason you wouldn't trust him. The boss has literally gone to every length to hide his identity. Even if he's fought these characters, there is no way one of his minions would be able to know his stand ability, any bits of information about the boss, and have him tell the people that he's going up against. That is something the boss would never do. He would never trust in someone to expose some of his secrets in an attempt that hopefully would lure them to their death. No. So like, it's obvious why they would trust him, this random voice in a computer, and in most situations, I would say that's stupid. Like, you're in a life or death situation, why would you trust a random voice in a computer? But after everything that we've learned about the boss and what he goes to basically keep his identity a secret, killing his family, essentially erasing everything that could link back up to him, of course, someone knowing his stand ability would pretty much be the indicator that you could probably trust this guy at least for a little bit. And I like that because it gives our characters a new destination to follow down, go to Rome, go to the Colosseum, and see what the hell is going to happen, and hopefully get some sort of knowledge, ability, power, something, so that we can defeat King Crimson, a stand that essentially right now is indestructible and can't be beat, even this computer is saying. Now, it's going to be interesting to see how far we go into, because this guy mentions how his body isn't capable of basically being able to move around, but it'll be interesting to learn exactly who this guy is, if he's a stand user, if he's inside the computer, if like his conscious is actually inside like technology. I don't know, but I'm really excited to see more. This was just really interesting because even though they knew the face of the boss after the sacrifice, I was still really curious, like, what are they going to do with that? Because there's no way the boss's identity is going to be in pictures or police records. Even if he faked his own death, he would make sure that there was no way that you could trace him. So I was really curious, like, where could they go with this? Because even though this is such great information, it still isn't enough to piece together who the boss is. And to see this kind of voice pop up, in most situations you would say this kind of just feels like a convenient plot scenario, but this man apparently has been waiting for years and years and years, waiting for the person who would go up against the boss and take him out. So it kind of explains it. It doesn't make it feel like just a plot device. It actually feels like this was a man waiting for this day, and that's really interesting to me, and I think it's the perfect way to kind of give them their new destination, and then seeing Doppio just doing his ring, which is the most creepy and just funny thing that JoJo has ever done. When he does that ring, it both makes me disturbed as well as laugh because it's so ridiculous, and to just see him steal ice cream from kids so he can talk with the boss, because the boss, he's a paranoid guy. He wants every stone checked. No stone is able to be left unturned. And obviously, if they're going away after the death of one of their fallen, they have to have information. I like how characters are piecing together things, not in just like, oh, this is a story, so of course certain characters have to learn this information. These are just their natural instincts. The boss is a paranoid bastard. He obviously is going to keep checking every little area, and if they're leaving after one of their friends just got killed, there has to be a reason, because in any other situation they would just be distraught and just emotionally broken. I like that, and I like just seeing just the boss apparently relying on people who he doesn't like, scum of the earth in his eyes, and then to see essentially that anytime they go, the person will go lower than where they started off at, they start like having this mold melt through their body, and it's like, how can JoJo continuously just bring up new stands that can be so terrifying, even in a story where we have King Crimson, who is just like the god level stand at this moment. And I love that, because you're once again learning backstories about the antagonist. And this is like the first time I felt like the antagonist that we got a backstory on wasn't someone you kind of wanted to root for. Like with the Hitman team, they were just people similar to Bruno's gang who are trying to get to their destination, and unfortunately they were the ones who had to get killed for Bruno's gang to live. This doctor, however, is just a scumbag, and there's no excusing anything, but I really appreciate learning about just how crazy he is. Someone who loves seeing death and got into being a doctor just so he could torture people and see people die. It kind of matches up with his stand, and a lot of times with a stand power, it kind of matches up with their personality, and seeing a man who just wants death and despair, looking elderly people in the eyes as he tells them what's going to happen so they will just like die of heart attacks or just fearful of what's happening. This man is crazy, and then to see his partner just filming all of it, like, this is so messed up, but that's why I like this antagonist, because you have a stand that is such wide range that the more bodies you get, the bigger its kind of field is. And to see that, like, it was so weird, because it was clear, like, they were melting the bodies, but it was really hard to piece together. Unless you read the manga, I don't think many people, if any, would be able to piece together exactly how the stand was functioning, because I was kind of under the impression that it was anytime you moved, like, that's how it was going. But to see it was such a weird technicality of if you go lower, that's when it would start attacking you, so you would have to blow the boat to throw people back up. This is not going to be an easy fight, because yes, you can go up, but if he goes back down, essentially you can't attack him. Like, there's no way to deal with it, because right now this guy is on a pretty elevated playing field, so they could climb up the stairs, but all this man would have to do is jump down, and they wouldn't be able to jump down, as otherwise their bodies will melt. It is such a ridiculous scenario, and the fact that this isn't even the end game, like, this just shows you that the fights are just going to continue to get more brutal and ridiculous the deeper we go into the episode count, and we still got another 10 episodes. I do have to really be thankful that David Production did have as many recaps as they did in this series. I know not everyone likes the recaps, I don't watch them myself, however, I appreciate the fact that for a series that is running for so many anime seasons, every 12 episodes or so, every 10 or so episodes, we get a recap, so they don't have to rush out a product and then we get a really lackluster, visually underwhelming episode. Instead, we get a 1 week break, we come back in, and we feel like JoJo is still at the top of its game, and the few dips that you see in this show are so minuscule, like it's not even an issue. This is the best looking JoJo part, and the fact that they're really taking the time, like the director, I really hope this man continues on future JoJo parts. I know the director, this is like his favorite part of JoJo, so this is like why it's such a passion project, but I'm really praying and hoping that this man is going to want to do future parts, because this is the best JoJo has seen. It's not even just like the source material is great, it's the fact that the team is just putting in so much passion, so much time and dedication, that I'm praying that even if it's not the same man who will direct the next part, that the same level of passion will be there, because this is exactly the type of JoJo that I've been waiting for, and the part that really turned me into a JoJo fan foaming at the mouth needing more. This is such a great part, and to just see just the stakes continue to get raised higher and higher, even though we're going up against King Crimson, who right now is indestructible, and the only way for them to beat it is to get this information on the arrows. Like, this is what I love about JoJo. Just when you think you've seen it all, another curveball, and even when you lose one of your best friends, there's no time to mourn at this point in time. You got to get to your destination, and you can just see the determination and resolve in their eyes. The computer is probably my favorite part of this episode, because there was no way for them to really find the boss's identity or find a solution to kill the boss. As yeah, assassination would work if you could get behind him, but there's no way in a series like this that something that easy would happen. So to have this voice pop up as almost like this savior, but also someone you got to be really cautious of, is a completely just interesting way to go about this story, to really shift it into the final stages of Golden Wind. and it makes me very excited for the future because this is such a bizarre situation, and how are they going to get out of this? I'm really curious to see how long this fight will be, but this is going to be a difficult fight, one of the most brutal, I think, for them, because if they can only stay at their current level, and if they go up or down, like, it's gonna be hard to deal with this, especially as they just melt, and that's not easy to deal with. I'm pretty curious though, for manga readers, how is this fight for you? Because there's so many fights that I keep hearing about, people just kind of raving about, being like, this is their most anticipated. In the manga, was this a fight you loved or hated or just didn't care too much about? But so far with what you've seen in the anime, how is it handling for you? Because pretty much up to this point, everyone's been saying how great the adaptation has been. For anime originals, what did you think of this, Stan? Did you predict exactly how it was working? Let me know your thoughts down in the comment section below. And if you did enjoy, be sure to drop a like and also hit that subscribe button if you happen to be new around here. So until next time, everyone, please take care and have a good one.